On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Coach Steve Erato to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Steve, who faced a life-threatening Widowmaker, a 100% heart artery blockage at age 39. Emergency surgery would save his life. Coach shares how family, co-workers, and listening to his body gave him a second chance. His story is inspiring. This would be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up? Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios just north of our great capital city, Madison, Wisconsin. You can follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791. Got a new Facebook page. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at tdecora8791. I'm in it for the followers, as well as hitting me up on Facebook at Tim Decora. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button or like button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to share their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us today. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, divorce, success despite challenges, etc., etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. According to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Coach?
1,000%.
1,000%. About 805,000 people in the United States have a heart attack each year. This includes about 605,000 first-time heart attacks and about 200,000 people who have had a heart attack before. The survival rate of the Widowmaker, and that's why I've got Coach on today. The Widowmaker heart attack, the survival rate is about 12% if you're outside of a hospital. Drastically goes up if we can get you to a hospital. It goes up to 25% if you're in the hospital to be able to survive. Rather low rates. I think my three-point jump shot might be better than those. Today, I welcome Coach Steve Erato to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Steve is an alum of Dominican High School, a proud Knight where he played football and baseball. After high school, he would take his talents to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, just down the street, a proud Panther, where he earned a degree in business. Finding his true calling after a one-year stint in the business world, Coach would get a teaching certification from Concordia University of Wisconsin over in Mequon, Wisconsin. He would start his teaching and coaching career with stops at Racine Horlick High School, Madison East High School, where he was the head football coach, and currently teaching business education and coaching football in the Waunakee Community School District. I'm so glad you could join us today, Steve Erato. Coach Erato, what is up?
Not much, man. Thanks for having me on. It's pretty exciting. I've never done one of these before, so it's a pretty cool experience.
Absolutely. We're going to get started here shortly. Happy Valentine's Day. We're recording this on February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. How was your day?
Not so bad. Nobody else better to spend it with than you, I guess, huh?
Yeah, and as you can see, I'm dressed in my red. I saw a lot of pink around the school today. No red. I don't wear red. I used to work at Racine Horlick, which was all red. I loved red, but here it's black, purple, pretty simple stuff. It's usually Friday purple too, isn't it?
Warrior Day.
I see you're going back to get your principal's license.
I am almost done. A few more months and I'm done.
How has that been going?
Good. It's been interesting. It's been a year and a half, all online, which is cool. Go at my own pace. 5 or 6 classes. Now I'm doing the hours for it. So I'm learning a lot about administrative life, and sometimes when I deal with things that I'm like, I never thought I would deal with it, and I'm going, do I really want to do this? Because being a principal is hard. I think being an admin is challenging. So I go back and forth. I mean, this could be another episode of Survive and Thrive. Do I really want to keep doing this? But I'm enjoying it. School's been great. The courses have been good, going at my own pace, and it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I used to be that guy about 5, 6, 8 years ago, and if I would have found out that you are going back to get your principal's license, I would have came over and grabbed you by the throat and said, no, don't do it. What are you doing?
You are not the only one. I've had people say, don't jump into that lifestyle. Don't be the admin. That's the dark side. And, I don't know. I want to, it's a new challenge. Coaching's fun. I like leadership, and I think this was a pretty good fit for me to want to do it. So that's why I jumped back into it.
Well, I've since changed my tune a couple of years ago where we need good people in working with the teachers and the kids, in the classroom. I look at it as we're working with kids. As a admin, you're not only working with kids, but you're also now working with the teachers and trying to help them. And I think there'd be no better person in a role like that than you, because of your experience with the coaching stuff, working with, you've been around kids a lot, you know how to work them, and you know how the system works. So I think I wish you well.
I appreciate
and
that.
And hopefully you can get back. Hopefully you can get you back here somewhere maybe.
I'm hoping not to leave. We'll see what happens. I'm not in a big rush once the license does happen, but I think we'll see what opportunities come in. Again, and we'll talk about it later with my kids going to school in the district. I'm not looking up and leave, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, just get it just in case.
Correct.
So you love your football.
I do.
Why?
I like the strategy part of it. The schematic part of football was always a draw. I think as you get older, and I've been doing this now for 28 years coaching football, I think now it's really about the impact on people and making a difference in kids' lives. The football part's fun. I like watching film. I like doing the technique and the strategy, but being around kids building relationships is pretty cool stuff, and that keeps you going, and they make it fun. Without the kids, I probably wouldn't keep doing it. So
did you have any experience from coaches that impacted you when you were in high school that maybe you said, I kind of maybe you really enjoyed that, I'd maybe like to be on the other side instead of the player now as the coach? Did you have some impactful guys?
Funny you ask. No. Yes, I did. But I never thought I would coach. I never did. I remember I was a senior I was about ready to go to colleges this summer. At that time, we played summer baseball. And Dave Richardson pretty well. He was my high school coach in Milwaukee, and he was at our game. And he said, hey, do you want to coach football? And I said, no, I didn't want to do it. And then I thought about it. I said, I'll give it a shot. And then I decided to do it. But he was an impact as a player, just as a human being, taught me character development. That's what got me into go. I thought I'll give it a year, see if I like it. And 27 years later, or 28 years later, I'm still doing it. So Dave was a huge impact. Then as you go through coaching with different people, you just learn different philosophies, you get different mentors. Pat was great. Pat Rice, being here with him for 8 years, those are probably the two that have been the most impactful on me.
And I believe one of those guys for sure is in the Hall of Fame.
Both of them are.
And actually they both are, okay.
They went in the same year together.
They did. Yeah. Well, I got to start paying a little more attention. Coach Richardson, sorry about that. I should have known that. But yeah, two Hall of Fame guys. I had an opportunity to work alongside with him, and yeah, the things I've learned from him, you can apply to just about anything in life, really. Yeah. When I mention the name Jamari Manuel, what are your first thoughts? Because I don't know, the viewers, or if you're listening, you might not be able to see this, but we've got a box of Kleenex, and I told Coach, I said, it's probably more for me in case he lets a few tears fly. I'm going to I'll talk about the Twitter thing here in a little bit, but tell me about Jamari.
So Jamari, I was head coach at East from 2012 to 2017 before I came here. And I met Jamari my first year. I was living in Milwaukee, driving to Madison before I moved. And so we'd go run the weight room.
That's a great commute, by the way.
Yeah, it was a good 65 minutes every day until we finally moved. But I met Jamari. He's a player. My first year, he was a sophomore. And he would take the bus from the south side of Madison to the east side of Madison, transfer point, walk. And he was in the weight room at 7 o'clock every morning. I thought, this kid had a little commitment level. He was driven. Got to know him well. We built a relationship. Make a long story short. I could make it longer if you want, but
I think. Hey, by the way, I'm going to stop you there for just a second.
Sure.
That is going to be another. We're going to have you back on because that is such a touching. This is such a touching story, but we're going to have you back on for that.
Then I'll keep the story short, so then if the listeners want to come back and get more, I'll give more information. But Jamari played for me going into his senior year. His foster parents just wanted to stop being foster parents. They were older. Mm-hmm. He needed a place to live. And I was in the meeting with him and his social worker, and they said, well, where do you want to live? And he looked at me, and he was with that guy. And I led to look around the room. I said, who are you talking about? And they said, me. So long story short, I asked my wife, and at the time my daughters were only 4 and 1. And here you have this 17-year-old African-American kid, and is he going to live with us? And we all decided, yeah. He came over for dinner, hit it off well with the family, and now he graduated from St. Cloud State in 2020 or 19. He's coaching football, just got hired at Whitewater as a defensive backs coach, so doing well. I mean, not a tearjerker quite yet, but if we go to another episode, I could probably get some tears out of him. But I think of strong-willed, high character, and just a dedicated human being. His life was not good. Mm-hmm. And to be able to share that with him and help him grow as a human being and watch him develop as a man. He's a father now too, so it's an outstanding story, and it's not The Blind Side, but it's one of those kind of touching stories that we've been fortunate to be around.
I'd maybe make a point of sneaking that into your letter of inquiry about some principal jobs, because that alone might that proves that you have some leadership, you've got some caring abilities. I mean, that's when I saw that the Twitter comment I made was you posted something after his graduation, and it was just so touching to me because I've known you since you've come here to Waunakee, and I didn't know that from kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, and he had put out, I think he put the thank you message or something. I don't even remember. And I have Twitter, but I don't really pay attention much. And then someone sent it to me, and I read it, and it's like, this is why you coach. This is why you do what you do. It makes it all worth it. It's like, this is what you do, and why you do it is because of the impact. The wins and losses are great, and we've had a ton of success here, obviously, at Waunakee. Not so much where I was in previous stops, but it's the impact. And the impact I've had on him and other kids, it's been huge, and he's a special young man. I guess older guy now. He's old now. He's almost 30.
Yeah, I would also have to add in the impact he's had on you, obviously, has been huge too. Yeah. I think that's that mentorship that I mentioned here is why it's important, why it's obviously important to you. Because I want to get to your story about the Widowmaker, we're going to get moving to our sponsor quick. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from getting out of my own kitchen and cooking dinner. I'm the cook. I don't know about you, Coach, but I'm the cook.
I'm the eater.
You're the eater. With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb. Most communities in the Dane County area, and that's the Madison area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. Drum roll. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
I have.
You have?
Yeah, very good food.
Can you toss out your favorite when you go there?
I'm just a burger and fries kind of guy.
You're a burger
Probably
and fries.
More chicken now, but yeah, burgers and fries.
I would recommend that if there's one of the 3 nights out of the year, go ahead and try the Bombers Special Pizza. Okay. Yeah, try that because that's the one I've been eating since the mid-'80s. The owner, Tom Anderson's dad, used to own a place in the Dells. Basically, I think Tom here, the owner at Buck and Honey's, has used the same recipe since way back when, and maybe he's tweaked it a little bit, but it's still pretty much the same stuff.
Good fish fry too, I believe, right?
Good fish fry too, yeah. But all right, on the podcast, our guests will follow the format for sharing their story like this. Number 1, what was it like? Number 2, what happened? And then number 3, what is it like now, along with their 5 suggestions for how to thrive after surviving something. So we will cover what was it like and what happened in segment 1, and what is it like now, and your suggestions for thriving in segment 2. So segment 1, what was it like before and what happened? Tell us about growing up in our biggest city in the state of Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Pretty typical, pretty normal. I mean, if you're looking for detailed family history, I grew up my split household. My parents got divorced when I was younger. I had a great relationship with my dad and my mom still. I had an older brother, older sister. So always looked up to my brother. And if he listens, he'll now know this, but I think I've told him before, but he was athlete, and my sister was an athlete too, and those are good role models to be around. And pretty typical life. You went through high school, went to college in Milwaukee, and did the sports and all that other stuff that I think most kids do, and was very involved in my school while at Dominican High School, and had a pretty good childhood, normal childhood, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
And you love those 2 to death, right?
My siblings?
Yes.
Sure, don't tell them that. Now they're probably going to listen. Yeah, dude, they're great people, and just I'm happy that I have two older siblings that I can look up to.
Yes, so you're the baby of the family. That's why I've seen some of those characteristics. Got to have everything your way, right?
I am the baby.
Got away with murder when you were a kid?
Yes. Could do no wrong, yes.
Tell us about your own family. You're happily married with two daughters.
Yes.
One of your daughters, I had the opportunity I didn't have to, I got to teach your daughter. Tell us about them.
Yep, we've got a wife. We've been married almost 19 years in July. Daughter who's 15, Leah, and my wife's name's Amy. Daughter Leah who's 15. I don't want to forget her. And then my daughter Elise is 12. She's in 6th grade at the intermediate school. Leah's into music, swims, outstanding voice. She's going to go to Europe this summer to tour around Europe for 3 weeks. She got selected to sing there. Elise is an athlete. She somehow got my genes, I think. She plays softball and swims and some hoops, and so they're very active children, and it's just a great family to be around. And I'm proud of them and proud to be a part of their lives.
Right out of high school, you started coaching.
Correct.
And where was that?
At Dominican, where I graduated.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave Richardson, like I had mentioned before, was my high school coach, and he needed an assistant, and he asked me, and that's kind of how I got started.
Besides Wanakee, you've had stops at Racine, Horlick, again, a very big school, and Madison East. And you were at both high schools. Do you have some fond memories of each of those two places?
Yeah, I don't like to say this too much. I guess I should when I compare schools. Probably because Racine was my first job. It was honestly my favorite job. It got me into the
kind of
flow
like
of teaching.
That girlfriend, that first girlfriend you have. You just that's the first one.
Yes, I built great relationships. I loved the school. It was a huge challenge. Different kids, different socioeconomics, but I just enjoyed that experience with those kids and it was a long drive to school every day. It was a 45-minute drive, but I just enjoyed going to work every day. Loved it. Loved the people I worked with. I made a lot of relationships and friendships that I still in contact with today, so it's been pretty cool. East was good too. I enjoyed that. I just ran into my old principal. I don't know if you know Mary Kelly.
Mary Kelly.
No. She was a principal who hired me, and I actually ran into her at a BDL basketball game about 3 weeks ago, and we reconnected. And such a great person, great to me, and our athletic director was good, and the kids were great. Obviously, the Jamari story doesn't happen without going to East, so those are fond memories there. And couple guys that coached with us at Wanakee coached with me at East, and we were able to get them over here. So I still have a lot of strong ties there as well, and loved the East Side community, loved everything about it. And this place at Wanakee is special. I mean, you've been there for so long. There's great people here too, and the community is supportive. And I think everywhere you go, I think the relationships you build and the connections you make are everlasting. It's been pretty cool.
You are hired to teach and coach at your current school, Wanakee High School, and we're shooting today from your room with a blimp camera here. All things are going well. Teaching is going great. You're part of a championship football program. Then you're jolted with a heart issue in 2019. I'm going to lay the foundation here. You shared tickets with yours truly here, Badger basketball season tickets. And if I would have had a better thumb on things, we would have had a better situation sitting closer to the floor.
Yeah.
Instead, I make you walk up to the nosebleeds. We're scraping our heads on the ceiling of the Kohl Center. But anyway, you're headed to the Illinois-Wisconsin Badger basketball game at the Kohl Center, men's basketball. Everything is normal until. Go ahead.
If I remember correctly, I think I do. Excuse me. It was cold. It was a February day. It was cold. Walking back to the car after I had that long walk down those flight of steps. Thank you very much. And I felt this rush or jolt through my chest, and but I never thought anything about it. I just kind of went to the car set. Didn't feel right, but I thought it was just the cold air kind of going through, and that was I let it go, and I never thought much about it after that. And then as I just kept kind of going through my normal routine every single day. And probably for a month and a half, I let it go. And then the symptoms got worse, but I did not think much about it. I would walk from my classroom to the main office, which is probably, what would you say, 150 yards maybe?
Yes.
And my chest would tighten up, my shoulders would get numb, and I thought, whatever, not a big deal. And it just continued to progress and get worse and worse. And finally one day I finished a workout. I came back to school and for my job, and I was sweating. And the teachers I worked with, Joan Gard, who you know, and Stacy Ryan, said, "What is wrong?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "I've had this chest pain for about a month now, and they said, you need to go to a doctor. And I said, nah, I'll be fine. I never didn't think of it. I went to a doctor, and I mean, how far do you want me to keep going in depth on this?
Yeah,
thing?
sure.
So I went to the doctor, and again, it was embarrassing because I had to bring my kids with me after school. They had just finished school, so I said, Dad's got to go to the doctor. I just got to get they got to look at me a little bit, and stepped on the scale, and it was way higher than I've ever been. And the doctor did some tests, and all of a sudden they put on some suction cups on my body, and he's looking for blood clots in my legs, and my kids are in the room. And I'm embarrassed. And I got a little bit of tears for my kids because they were looking at me. And at the time, I think Leah was 10 and Elise was 5 or 6. They were in kindergarten, 4th grade. And the doctor found nothing out of the ordinary, so he scheduled the stress test and a cholesterol test. Cholesterol test came back fine. Stress test, I had to wait a few weeks. This is where it gets kind of funny because I went to the football coaches clinic, and I'm with all the coaches, and I can't walk from one session to the next without my chest tightening up. And then I'm walking across the parking lot from the Marriott West to the Comfort Inn. I had to have somebody drive me. This is only 200 yards. Someone had to drive me. Coaches think I'm crazy. They're like, no. Then one coach, Joe Marks, said, I bet you pulled a muscle in your chest. My buddy had the same symptoms. Went to the doctor, pulled chest muscle. Like, that's what I have. I was in such denial that I could have any heart problem whatsoever. The week after that, I take the stress test. It was the worst 6 minutes. Have you ever had a stress test before?
I have.
It was awful. And they cranked the thing up, and I said, you got to stop. I can't go. My whole body tightened up. And I said, let me sit down. It'll go away. And again, I'm thinking I have just a bad chest muscle, but I was in so much pain. They sent me back to work. So we'll call you with the results. I said, okay. They said about 2 hours later, they said, come back. We need to do an EKG. They put you on tubes on you. They light up the dye in your arm, and they light your heart up. They look at all the stuff. And the cardiologist came in and said, you got a blocked artery. We got to go. We got to operate. I said, okay, when? He said, we can do it
next week. Or
he said, he goes, we can do it tomorrow. Or we can do it now. I said, let's do it tomorrow. I got to get I got to get my sub plans ready. I've got all these things to do. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I'm not really giving you an option. We're going now. And I said, well, why didn't you lead with that? I would have. So I called the school. I called at the time, BK or Brian Kirsten was our principal. And I called Pat Harrison and said, hey, this is what's going on. And she immediately said, we got it. Just do what you got to do. And they called my wife, and it was scary. I didn't really know. I mean, I'm thinking I could die. But then I'm stubborn. They go, we got to wheel you. I'm at St. Mary's. They got to wheel you across to the other side of campus. And I go, I can walk. They said, no, you're not walking. I said, let me walk. I can't. I mean, I had my head down, put my hood over my head. I was on the perp walk. I was so embarrassed that I was 39 years old. I'm in a wheelchair when I could walk just fine. So it was tough.
But yeah, I mean, and then walking with the hood over, and you probably had to walk 100 yards, and you said you could make it. Well, you could make it a week or two earlier. Right.
But that's I'm stubborn, and I didn't. When you're 39 years old, I don't think thinking you had heart problems was going to be on my list of things I had to deal with, and that was such a shock. So it was tough for sure.
Some of those heart, and now that you think back to that whole situation, so you had some chest pain. What else was going on?
The chest, tightening in the chest, really where it got to when my left arm, and I believe my right arm would get severely numb. I mean, and then, in this place, if you have to walk up steps, I had to pause, and I could barely make it up the steps. But really, it was the tightening of the chest and the arms. And there are days I'd walk and go, please don't drop now. I don't want kids to see me fall. I don't want someone to have to do CPR on me or whatever. And plus, I don't want anybody to see me die. I mean, I didn't think that was going on. I just figured I had just an issue with my chest. I was in such denial because I was so young.
And fatigue, and just getting tired.
Yes.
And I mean, would you go home and you got to lay down on the couch for a little bit?
I would go sit down and I didn't want to do much of anything because I was afraid of the pain coming back. So I wouldn't do much, no.
Because our listeners want to hear how things turn out, because this is going to lead into segment 2, where we start to talk about what then happened when they wheeled you across to the other side of campus at St. Mary's Hospital. We're going to go through and talk about our sponsor one more time. Buck and Honeys has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning. With 4 locations in the Madison area, one is always near. People ask me, why Buck and Honeys? Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. At age 39, I hope I got the math right,
Yep.
Steve Erato, Coach Erato, is diagnosed with the Widowmaker. And some people have probably been wondering, what is this Widowmaker he's talking about? It's a severe, and this is from Google, a severe and life-threatening type of heart attack that occurs when the left anterior descending, LAD for you doctors in the crowd, artery becomes completely blocked. If untreated, we're not having this discussion right now. We're maybe doing it in honor of you, Coach. But you'll find out in segment 2 how Coach survived, and thank God he did, because I've really enjoyed our friendship, and you mean a lot to me, and how Coach has thrived after that. Please stay tuned. Don't change the channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be right back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. The podcast where I feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Steve Erato is here today because it's in his DNA to help others. He is going to share his story of surviving and thriving after the Widowmaker heart diagnosis nearly cost him his life. Segment 2, we're going to get started here. You get the diagnosis from your doctor. You get off that treadmill. And I wanted to mention this in the first segment, but I know we talked off here a little bit. I believe somebody will have to fact check me on this, that I believe Johnny Unitas died after his stress test, where he's a big smoker, big time one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but a smoker. And yeah, I think he died after the stress test. So they got him in that treadmill, and I've had to do the same thing, and they run you and tell you, we're going to turn it up. And then you said it was hard. And
Makes you wonder if the stress test is safe.
yeah, I don't know. I'm glad it's not as stressful as, like I said, otherwise we're having a different discussion.
It was scary. It was the worst, whatever. I was in there 5 or 6 minutes. It was awful.
You get then the diagnosis from that stress test. And what were your initial thoughts when the doctor said, we're going to send you home? Well, wait, we're not going to send you home. We're actually going to, you need to go under the knife like right now.
Yeah.
What were you thinking right then?
Fear. I remember asking him, am I going to die? And he said, probably not. But I don't know. You're going to go under surgery. You're going to get knocked out, and there's definite fear for sure. And then I had to call my wife and tell her, hey, this is what's going on. I mean, she knew where I was, but then I said, this is what's happening. And I think that the post-op, you got to have to explain yourself. And to me, I was ashamed because I let myself kind of go and get to a predicament where I thought it was my fault, right? You're overweight, you're not exercising as much, probably not eating well. And then eventually it came back down to genetics too. But fear and embarrassment were my 2 biggest thoughts.
You go under the knife. You have the surgery. And thank your lucky stars, somebody's tapping you on the shoulder. Hey, Steve, wake up, and you're starting to come to. You're out of the surgery. What was the next hours, day, couple days like?
The next hour or post-surgery was tough because they went through the groin, and so you can't move your leg. I couldn't move my leg the entire night, so that's hard because I'm so used to moving, so I had to lay there. My wife was there. My kids stayed home, and I remember talking on the phone to my kids, and I was still kind of out of it a little bit, and they were on FaceTime, and they're crying, and I'm kind of crying a little bit, and then I snapped out of it and go, "Hey, is your homework done?"
The teacher and
yeah, and then it was tough to look at them, and then obviously your wife is there. My mom actually drove up with it. She was an hour and a half away, and you're just ashamed because you're sitting there going, look at what you got yourself into. And then it was tough. Couldn't move my leg. And then they left. So I was by myself in the room. A lot of thoughts go through your head. Like, what's next? What are you going to do? What are you going to do to change this situation you got yourself into? And I remember the doctor came up. We didn't know it was even the Widowmaker. The doctor came up with the x-ray, and he showed the heart arteries, and one was real limp, and that was it. And that's when he told my wife, that's the Widowmaker, and it was 100% blocked. And you go, holy crap. Like, that could have been it. You wait another day or two, it could have been it. And just a lot of thoughts go through your head. Like, what if you would have waited? And then it becomes, you flip it. Okay, what's next? What am I going to do when I get out of here? I go home the next day, and it was instant, again, shame, embarrassment, but you had to turn it around and get your life back in order because you got 2 little kids at home, and you got to do the right thing for them and your family and be around a lot longer.
Some people actually go the other way. Whatever happens after they're back at home, they get into substances, and they get into unhealthy living, or they don't take the recommendations from the doctor, and you need to do this and change that and this going forward for the rest of your life. You didn't you went the healthy way, the healthy route, and basically put your health and your life in the hands of the doctors and the physical therapists, and just did what they did. And
yeah, and I think having the background of being part of being active helped. I mean, I maybe should have mentioned earlier, when I was younger, working out was not a problem. Every day, no big deal. Early 20s, into my late 20s, no big deal. Then it kind of stopped. So I knew how to do it. I had the tools to resort back to because I've done it before. So it wasn't hard to do. It was just more of that wake-up call to get it done. I also think too, where people that might resort back to not doing the way I did it, I had so much going on. I could walk into this school. I had a program. I had a weight room program. I had a cardio machine. Or I had those tools in my bag, so to say, so I could go do those things. Not everybody has the ability to go to a gym or to want to even do it, but I had a lot of support from people, and I also had a lot of support in this building as far as equipment to actually get what I wanted to get done accomplished.
What were you doing anything for your mental health? After? Yes, after.
Yeah, I talked to a lot. I mean, my wife and I talked a lot. I think you and I talked a little bit yesterday or whatever. We were chatting through this thing. I was embarrassed. Like I said, I was embarrassed, and I was in tears the first night home, and I just had to talk to her about it. Like, I can't believe I got to this point. I'm 39 years old. What is going on? I think having her around, talking to her, my parents would call me all the time, and then the colleagues I work with, Joan and Stacy and Tina, would visit me and just check on me, and Pat Rice and a bunch of the coaching staff. I think having that support system around was huge. It kind of makes you motivated to want to do better and be better because you got a lot to live for. And so those were good coping mechanisms. Then the daily walks were huge for me to be able to walk and get my mind right and think and let the fresh air kind of kick in. So those were things that helped me a lot.
Did your healthcare provider help in finding any resources for you in terms of the mental health stuff?
Yeah, there were always people that you could always, at the clinic you could talk to, and they had group stuff, people like me in my situation that you could go to. Honestly, it's just something that didn't really appeal to me because I felt like I had enough support where I could do that. I'm not a big share my feelings kind of guy, but being able to have the talk to the support that I had, my family, and obviously the people in this building was huge. But they did, and they do a great job at St. Mary's. I'm sure any other clinic you go to, but for me, it wasn't the best for me because I felt like I had enough within the community here to take care of it.
Well, here are your 5 suggestions that have allowed you to survive. And I couldn't find any data to back this up, but you didn't have the heart attack like we talked about, but maybe that was right around the corner. So you got to the warning signals, got to you first, and then you reacted. So these are the suggestions that allowed you to survive and thrive with the Widowmaker diagnosis. Here's what you shared with me. And I'm going to toss these in underhand just like a softball. And I'm just going to say, go ahead and hit that, and you're going to hit it over the fence here. So number 1, and this is the point where the listeners get the notebook out and pen and pencil and start writing some of these things down. Number 1, you said have a good support system. You kind of alluded to that, but go ahead and hit that again.
Yeah. People around, you got to trust people around you. I think you have to have people you can talk to or go to when things aren't going your way. For me, it was obviously my wife and my parents, and then the people that I work with in this building. Just huge, just to talk to. If I didn't have Joan Gard and Stacy Ryan and Tina to tell me to go to the doctor, you and I would not be having this conversation. And so I think being able to have people around you that you trust what they say, they have your best interest at heart, is a huge piece and huge factor to anything that you're doing. Have a good support system around you.
And I know we talked about the coaching part and playing athletics. I think that's understanding and being a good teammate. And you had these colleagues that were here longer than you, and they just said, "Hey, you need to go to the doctor, and you need to go like right now." Yeah. And you being coachable, you said, "Okay, yeah, I will. I'll do that." Versus part of you probably wanted to fight that off, but then probably part of you said, "You know what? Maybe I do need to listen to them on this one."
Yeah.
Number 2, don't be afraid to talk to people. So besides your colleagues and the coaches and your wife, was there anybody else that kind of was in there as well where you started to open up to maybe some other people that maybe you didn't?
Not in my circle per se, but I think once I got into the doctor's office, I started talking a little bit more and opened up a little bit about my habits, not being so good. I'm not a smoker, I'm not a drinker, but I was a pretty bad eater and not very active. I think being able to talk to the people that were going to take care of you was huge. But again, going back to the people that I had around me was great for the support system. But I think if you have somebody that you know you can open up to, don't hold it back. I think you have to talk. And you feel better when you talk. I mean, you get it out there. Why hold it back in? Let it out and talk. And it's just, for me, it's a coping mechanism. It's just to talk to people. Again, talk to people that you trust.
Number 3, this isn't the end of the world. So we're going to use this as a second chance. So you're given this second chance at life, so to speak. Talk on that. Go ahead and hit that.
It's that, fork in the road moment. Which way do you want to go? And to me, it was, you better change. And I couldn't look at it as this is the end, right? They gave you a diagnosis, you've got heart disease, but it's not the end all. You're on medication now for the rest of your life, but you can do X, Y, and Z to help your cause. And I decided to take that as a second chance or a second opportunity. Again, at the time, my kids were 10 and 6 or 10 and 5. And my wife was my age as well. And I'm 39, at the time, 39. I want to live until I'm 109 or whatever it may be. So it wasn't a death sentence because I was able to get past it. And you said in your stats before, the Widowmaker, that's a scary deal. And not many people survive that. And to be able to do that, I had to look at it as an opportunity of, it's positive now. Go in the direction you want to go to make your life better so that you're going to be around a lot longer. So it was not a death sentence. It was a way to make my life better.
I think this is going to be somebody that maybe listens to this and maybe it's not somebody who's got some heart issues, but maybe it's a spouse, it's a son or daughter, it's a colleague that hears this. You actually might you and I might save some lives by you being on the podcast today. Somebody listens to this and says, my coworkers talking about having a sore arm, left arm all the time and gets winded and all of these things you talked about, and they're going to go and encourage their, whatever, again, spouse, colleague, friend. I'm taking you. If you're not going to go, I'm going to drive you to the hospital. This is going to save a life somewhere.
Well, and if I could, real quick,
yeah.
It was genetic. Right? I don't know if I mentioned my dad had quintuple bypass surgery at 42. Me going into having the surgery I did, immediately my brother called the doctor, got his heart taken, he had it looked at. He had to have stents put in. So he went, my sister, everybody in my family got checked up on to make sure they were okay. And it so happened my brother had to have almost the same procedure as me. We blame our dad, obviously, because that seems the right way. But I think the point is that my situation helped encourage them to go to the doctor and get checked out and get them healthier as well. So it ended up working out in the long run for our family for sure. And if people hear it and they help with somebody else, that's great.
Number 4, here it comes, exercise. Hit that.
You got to do it. In my earlier years, it was no problem. I always found time to do it. When I got to East and I got here, I did not have the time, or at least I thought it did not have the time. I would rather sleep in. I'd rather go home after work, and I didn't make time for it. After the procedure, for the first 10 days, you can only do so much. You can't lift a lot of stuff, so it's just walking or whatever. And then since that day forward, I bet you I'm probably a regular 6 days a week now. And during the week, I made my goal or my mission was 5:15 in the morning. Get to the high school, go work out whether I'm tired or not. You just got to do it. And exercise is key. I think it leads to a lot of good things. Obviously, it leads to a longer life, I would believe. I feel healthier. I feel better. I'm more energetic. I ended up dropping, I think, 40 or 50 pounds, and I'm more active. Exercise has been the key. If you can find time to do it or make time to do it, I think you have to do it.
Have you gotten past that point? I've heard a lot of people, and maybe you're not just old enough yet, you're just still a young guy, where some people say, I don't have to do something, I get to.
I am kind of to that point, yes. I've heard this saying a lot, and I think in coaching we hear this saying a lot. I do take it as I get to go work out. Yes, sometimes it can be a burden, but when you start to think back, again, 2019, you could have died. It's like, go, do it, and you just get it over with. It's 30 minutes or however long I want to make it, and do something. And now I have a friend now, we text every day and say, I did this. We took it from the J.J. Watt commercial, and we said, today I did this. And then it goes, yeah, I better go do something. And it just motivates me to do more and more and more. So we text each other every day about what we did as far as our workout goes. We can try to one-up each other.
And number 5, probably the best one, I think. And maybe it'll get your wife and the kids choked up if they're listening here. But number 5, value your family, enjoy all your moments. And we talked before we started this today that, you could be thinking the old you, the old me, we're on vacation, but we're thinking about practice coming up, where we're thinking about fall workouts, or we're thinking about the summer stuff, or, the last season, and that's interfering. You have a totally changed point of view now. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, when I was the head coach at East, if we'd be on vacation or we'd be away from the school, even when I was at Wanakee, you were thinking about what to do when you got back. I never enjoyed vacation like you're supposed to enjoy vacation, because I always wanted to be back where I was. So I wasn't a very present person, I think, mentally. Physically, I was obviously there, but mentally, I don't think I was always there. And I was always thinking about the next. Even when I was at East and we weren't on vacation, I was always in the building at school. I was very rarely home. As my wife would say, you're taking care of other people's children, not your own. And now that you have the second chance, now I go on vacation, I don't think about teaching. I don't think about coaching. I think about where I'm at and what I'm doing. It's allowed me, not even the vacation part, but coaching my daughters. I had done basketball. Now I do her softball team. It allows me to be with her, or then going to all my other daughters' Leah's performances. It allows me to be there and focus on them only, and then all my wife's things too. It's just a way for me to be present, because that's the most important thing. The sports and that'll always be there, but your family is what it's all about, and I value that time. And I'm fortunate to have that second chance with them to be able to do that. So I make myself more present than what I was prior to this episode happening.
I think I've heard some people, and what I'm getting out of these episodes, and I'm getting a ton today out of some of the things you shared, but I've heard a couple of people say, I have to have that time where I can turn the off switch on for your career, on switch for family, and be able to turn them both on and off. And I was just like you for a long, long time. I never had the off switch. I was always on, and it was football, it was basketball, it was phy ed, it was worrying about other kids at school. And oftentimes, yeah, my kids took a second backseat to other kids. Now it's the other way around. And I am happy to say, and I'm going to probably guess you're happy to say, that when you change your priorities around and put you first and your kids, and maybe it's a faith or it's exercise or whatever, that life is so much better.
Yeah, it's easier too. You just feel like a healthier person as a whole, not just physically, but mentally as well, because you're there. I mean, there's other things that are more important than the stress of what you left behind. Leave the stress where it is and go be with the people that matter the most to you. The stress will come back when you get there, but you can unplug for a little bit and go be with the people that mean the most to you.
It'll always be there.
Correct. It's not going anywhere.
What an episode. I'm so glad you could join us today. Your journey through a potential life-threatening heart issue at a young age was a major hurdle to cross. Many people in your position might choose unhealthy coping strategies. You talked about that why in the road. You took the healthier way. Some people go that other way and they're not around, or they have a life of a long life, and that's not as fruitful as the one you're doing. You just chose to get after it. Today, you shared parts of your story that reminded us of how important it is to listen to your body and maybe some colleagues and coworkers, and to get the help you need. Coach Steve Erato just shared his amazing story and experience as a survivor of a potential Widowmaker heart attack. He also shared his 5 suggestions that helped him to get through a physically and mentally challenging time in his life. Here are Coach Erato's 5 suggestions to review those. Number 1, have a good support system. Number 2, don't be afraid to talk to people. Number 3, not the end of the world. Use this as a second chance. Number 4, exercise, exercise, exercise. Number 5, value your family and enjoy all your moments with them. As we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, are there any final thoughts, Coach?
If I could add a 6th suggestion, I think we talked about too, is know your family history. I think that was critical too, knowing that my father had his episodes. Never really played a factor or part in why this was happening to me, but I think if you know your family history as well, that's going to be critical as you move forward. If you have these symptoms, or you can prevent things if you know more about your family health history for sure.
I know. I got a little choked up, but I got a little smile when you started to talk about some of our old colleagues that are no longer in the building, and you want to hit those guys again and gals.
The Pat Rices of the world, and yeah, Pat Rice was huge, and he's a great leader, great mentor. Joan Gard, who was, I would say, was my work mom, would be something.
Older sister.
Yeah, oh, sure. If Joan, if you listen, I don't mean you're that old, but Stacy Ryan was a huge support person. We still text and talk every once in a while. We live pretty close to each other. And Tina Trumbauer, great people just to be able to lean on to and know that they're there for you. But if you have those people around that you can trust and talk to, those are the ones that helped me a lot through this. And Chris Gravers, and now I work with, obviously, guys like all the coaches I work with are huge and critical to my success and my healthy lifestyle, and just being there as a support system for me.
You got to work side by side, shoulder to shoulder with some of those people. I was in a different department, and I looked at them the very same way you did, just really trusting people and colleagues. And unfortunately for them and for you, I spent some time sneaking down here once in a while to the business ed area. But
for technology help.
But more for the friendship kind of stuff. But
sure.
Again, thanks for being on. On our next episode, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they survived and thrived. If you have a story to share, or you know someone who does, reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.